Hello and welcome to EduCurious. Today's guest is Officer David Hernandez. He is a school resource officer at one of our local schools, and he has a great wealth of knowledge on the inner workings of that side of education, which is sometimes tough to navigate. Sometimes as parents, we get a little nervous, and sometimes as administrators, we rely heavily on law enforcement to stick to making sure we follow legal procedures, all the rules and regulations, and it's a big task. So welcome, David. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
I've got a couple questions just to start us off. One being, tell me about your journey and why are interested in this line of work.
I am from New York City. I was a student with the New York City Board of Education between kindergarten and 8th grade. Ninth grade, my parents decided to move, and we moved to the great state of Florida, where I got to go to high school here. And it was a really good experience. For a short time, while I was between 12 and 13 years old, I got to be part of an Explorer program with the New York City Police Department. And that kind of opened my eyes to the life of law enforcement, what is all involved, everything else. And I kind of took a good liking to it. Then fast forward to ninth grade, where I was exposed to JROTC. I had no idea what that was. And the high school that I went to just so happens to have an Air Force JROTC. Started in ninth grade, went through the 4 years of high school, had a great time in high school, graduated as a cadet lieutenant colonel. We volunteered with a lot of nonprofits. The primary one that comes to mind is March of Dimes. At 17 years old, I got to sit in the board for the planning committee for the March of Dimes for the city of Orlando. And that was a pretty good experience as far as, dealing with adults at 17 years old. After that, went to the military. I was in the Air Force 4 years, came back to Florida and got with the sheriff's office on the West Coast and did 4.5 years there before I came here where I'm at now. And I've been here for going on 18 years. It's been a whirlwind of an adventure in my job. Early on in my career, I got exposed to dealing with juveniles. At first, it was in a correctional facility, unfortunately, but it happens. When you work in the world of law enforcement, if you can imagine, it's very broad. There's many different avenues that you can go, many different types of investigations, and I mean, it's a lot. So a lot of times, depending on your personality, depending on your training, depending on your experience, you get assigned to different things, but eventually you find your niche. My niche I found early, and that was working with juveniles. So when I got the opportunity to come to the agency that I'm at now, after 4 years of patrol, I got an opportunity to be an SRO at another school, and I enjoyed it very, very much. Interacting with the students, interacting with the parents, working along with the administrators at the school. It was a very, very rewarding time for me. Watching a kid come to the school scared, timid, not knowing which direction to go. And, 4 years later, they're graduating, they're young adults, they're going on to the big bad world and taking that education they took from the school and becoming something with them with their lives. So that was pretty rewarding. Like I said, for the better half of my life, almost 20 years of service, I got the opportunity to be a school resource officer once again, and I didn't hesitate. Once the opportunity came up, I put in my memo, and I've been in my present position 4 years now.
What does your daily workload look like, and why is your job incredibly needed in today's times?
As far as I can remember, I've always seen an officer out of school, from elementary through back then it was called junior high school, now through high school. I've always seen a resource officer. Back then, the primary objective for a school resource officer was to bridge that gap between law enforcement and the general community. When we have emergencies at our house, be it a fire or a medical emergency, we call 911. Yay, the firefighters are here. Yay, the EMTs are here. We have a medical emergency. But when times get at their worst, somebody's breaking into my house, my uncle and my aunt are having a fist fight, call 911. The police are here. They're going to solve the problem. It's not necessarily the best case scenario, but officers come with one thing in mind, and that's to, realize the status quo. When you walk into a violent situation, you have to take control of that room. You have to get command presence. So it's all negative, 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 negative. And that's all. If that's all you see as a child is police officers coming in with something negative, then that's what's going to stick in the back of your mind. So when that first officer, once you start driving, 16, 17 years old, stops you at a traffic stop for running a red light or driving too fast because it's not safe for conditions for traffic, you have that negative mindset already in the back of your mind. You're gonna, ooh, this is an officer. Is this gonna go? Is this gonna go bad quick? Because that's all you know. So a long time ago, they instituted school resource officers in schools to bridge that gap because officers are people too. You know, this is a job. It's an important job, but it's not just a job where I know I'm just on a computer all day, just typing away and okay, I got to get this paperwork done. No, this is a people job. This is a customer service job. This agencies across this entire country, if not this entire world, they have excellent relationships with the community because they trust their police department or they trust their local sheriff's office or whatever that may be. But that was the primary motive of the school resource officer is to bridge that gap, to teach the child that, hey, we are friends. We're here to help you when times are get at their worst. That quickly changed after the unfortunate event at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in South Florida. That event pretty much culminated or brought to the forefront the importance of security at schools. Now, the difference between here in Florida and up north is that up north, security has always been number one priority. And I say this because I remember at my junior high school having metal detectors, and it was no different than going to an airport, than going to a courthouse, any type of governmental building. You're going to have to go through some sort of security because they'll make sure that building remains safe, be it a federal building, a state building, a city building, whatever that may be. That included schools as well. Well, now here in Florida, it's like, wow, why do we have all these gates? Why do we have all these fences? It's for the security of the students. It's to prevent another tragedy like Marjory Stoneman Douglas. That law that was passed in Tallahassee brought about a lot of good things to the forefront as far as additional mental health support. The study that was done, it almost took 2 years for the study to be completed after Marjory Stoneman Douglas. A lot of good information came out of it. They investigated what happened prior to that incident, what happened during the incident, and what was the outcome of that incident. Well, because of that study, we have, you go to any school today and we have fences or gates. We have where you have to show your identification to come in. We have, badges to let you in through doors. And that's for the general security of the school. One way in, one way out. Up north is a lot easier to do that because most schools are in buildings. And if you lock every door on the outside of the building and you only allow one door open, then that's pretty good to manage. Unfortunately, in Florida, we have open campuses. I remember when I moved here, the school that I'm at now, it was you can come and go as you please from any direction, and that's not good. That's not good for the security of the school. Once you got the physical security in place, then you got the added caveat of mental health support and support for the students, and a lot of times support for the staff themselves because times have changed. We have social media, we have cell phones, we have so many distractions right now, and being a teacher now is extremely challenging. My hat's off to every teacher that teaches out there because I know I couldn't do that job. But again, once you find your own niche and you're good at it, then you become successful in the long run. But it's very important to have school resource officers not in schools, not only just to bridge that gap between the community, but to be there physically and have that connection with students and help the administrators with the mental health portion of it. If a student has a bad day and they walk out of a classroom, well, they call on the radio. We have a child that came out of the classroom. Okay, well, let me go find that child and see what's going on. They might have a bad day. Everybody has a bad day. But children are going to do children things because they don't know. If you're not taught on how to behave, on how to react to certain situations, how do you have the opportunity to teach that? That's a lot of what school resource officers do. We wear many different hats. One day I could be a father figure. One day I could be an uncle. One day I could be a psychiatrist, psychologist. And we do that because we care, because we love what we do. I know I do. I could do the rest of my career could be working at a school or with various schools, depending on where my career takes me. I mean, I just love it. I love it because I think every child, just like we believe every child deserves an education, well, part of that education is, not just the arithmetics, but behavior because we all need to know how to behave as adults and learning the different cultures and the different customs. And that to me is that's the best education you can get.
So, at your particular school, what are some safety measures that you've seen put in place in the last couple of years?
When you go to any school, you're going to have to show your identification, be it a Florida state ID, a driver's license, a picture of a passport, something that was issued to you that has your picture on it and it identifies who you are. We have to keep tabs of who comes on the campuses, because we want to make sure that we don't have somebody that's not supposed to be there on the campus. The door will be locked. You're going to have to show your ID to a camera or to a person, whatever that looks like. If you can't show your identification, then you probably will not be allowed access.
Talk a little bit about when you're showing your identification. What are they checking for?
Basically, the facial picture and the first name, last name, date of birth is pretty much all they're checking for. Here in Florida, they run it through a program called Raptor. So the Raptor program checks for many different things across the board. They match that information with crime database, and to make sure that you're not a wanted person, make sure you're not somebody, again, that's not supposed to have access to children. But it does various things. That's one of the things that it does. The second thing that it does is it keeps accountability. Just like when a child goes to a classroom, a teacher has to take attendance, right? When that attendance, it goes to various different resources, not just including funding, but it also logs in the hours that the child has to be in the classroom. So the same aspect, Raptor always keeps account of how many individuals are on the campus. So if you're coming to volunteer, if you're coming as a parent to volunteer for a club, if you're coming to volunteer to help with the classroom, if you're coming to because you're going to be part of a field trip, when you have a number of people on a particular campus, then Raptor keeps accountability of that, which is it gets monitored by law enforcement, by the Florida Department of Education, and if something crazy happens on campus, we can actually lock the campus down and get a head count of who's all on that campus at that one time to account for everybody.
Can you speak a little bit on your partnership with the Sheriff's Department and Safe Schools and how you work cooperatively to keep our schools safe?
So, from the Marjory Stoneman Douglas law that came out 4 years ago, came out with something called safe schools. Most sheriff's offices took over that responsibility of safe schools, where they have a chain of command and somebody in charge and so many people. They took over all of the public schools within the county. Some police departments that were in schools were replaced by deputies. Well, depending on what school it is, some schools decided to stay with police officers. Either or, it's the same difference. We all do the same job. We all enforce the same laws, and we all follow the same rules as far as safe schools is concerned.
So, a lot of parents and students have noticed that all of the technology and all the social media outlets have a Notify Florida, a Fortify link. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Fortify Florida is another application that came about out of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Act. Before Fortify Florida existed, it goes in hand with mental health. If a child has a conversation with a friend in class and says, "Man, I'm frustrated with this school. I hate this school, and I want to do something about this," that's a very vague statement, but it has a lot of meaning behind it because we don't know what the child means. That conversation takes place between student A and student B. Student B doesn't tell anybody, doesn't tell a teacher, doesn't tell a dean, doesn't tell an administrator. B goes home and says, "Hey, mom, I had a kind of curious conversation with little Johnny today. And little Johnny said that he's kind of mad at the school and he's going to do something about it. But I don't know what he means by that." The parent's like, "Oh, they're just talking. It is what it is." That information never got anywhere. Fortify Florida is an opportunity for anyone, teachers, students, parents, anybody in the community can get onto Fortify Florida and send that little comment from student A to student B and identify what that comment is. And if the comment was done through social media, you can snapshot a picture of the comment. If it was sent via email, via text message, you can share that information as well. You can share videos. So anything that would help to identify who these students are, what school they go to. One good additive to Fortify Florida is that you can send it in anonymously. So Fortify Florida has been very good, actually, in us basically stopping or intervening in a moment of crisis for a student, for a child, even for an adult. That hey, we got information that you had a conversation between another student. What's going on? How can we help? Why don't you like this school? How can we address that?
You mentioned social media as one way that students are being unkind to each other, bullying each other, threatening each other. What advice do you have for students or adults before posting anything on social media?
It is against Florida state law to send a threat via social media or even a text message. It's a bad recipe. I suggest don't send it. I mean, if you have a disagreement with someone, it's best to have the conversation in person. And to make it even better, have a mediator, whoever that mediator can be. be it a third party like a school administrator. If you are friendly with your local officer or deputy, give them a call. Hey, we're having a conversation and we're agreeing to disagree and we're trying to talk about it. Then have a conversation. The school that I'm currently at, on a daily basis, I see students coming into the dean's office, and the dean is a mediator, and they talk stuff out and they figure it out. Because again, we are in a school, it's a learning environment. Let's learn how to live together. Let's learn how to cohabitate. You don't always have to go to fists. That to me is it's ridiculous that some people resort to violence rather than talking stuff out. Don't send threats via social media or anything else, because you can be charged, you can be placed under arrest, and then you're gonna have to explain to a judge as to why you can't control your anger and you're sending these threats to your social media, because it's not gonna be tolerated.
A lot of times I've heard in passing that, oh, I was just kidding, or I didn't mean that. Talk about the seriousness of joking like that as well.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke. I don't care how funny it is. It's not a joke. Jokes get taken seriously. We live in different times today. That's where mental health comes in as well. It's not a joke, you know. Oh, I'm gonna blow the school up. No, no, you're not. Because why do you feel that way? You know? And then of course when law enforcement has to get involved, we have to go and talk to we immediately get the parents involved. And hey, your son, your daughter said they're gonna blow the school up. That brings concern to us as law enforcement. How can we help? And can we do a home check? That's part of our procedure. A lot of times, a lot of parents say, nope, you're not checking my house. Okay, that's fine. All we can do is ask for your cooperation. Again, we are enforcing the law. And if we have enough probable cause to get a search warrant, then a search warrant will be sought out by courts and we will go that route. 9 times out of 10, most parents are very cooperative. I mean, if you're not doing anything wrong, then what's there to hide? You want to come check my house? Check my house. I don't care. In and out, 5 minutes tops. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day. And we provide the resources for the student, the support that they need. Again, a lot of students go through different things on a daily basis. Not every child has a mom and dad at home. Not every child lives in a nice, warm, cozy house during the winter or a nice, cool house during the summer. Not every child eats a meal every day. So we don't know what the socioeconomic situation is for that child. So, but we need to support every child that's a part of the school because that's what our job is.
Talk about when a threat does come your way, how you have to meet with your safety team and who that includes and what that entails, and how you report that information and follow through with proper procedures.
So the Florida Department of Education has basically got with Safe Schools, is the Safe School Division. We have something called threat assessments. When a child says something concerning, then we have to go investigate. We have to go through a threat assessment process. Part of the team that meets, it's going to be most likely an assistant principal, most likely a dean, a mental health counselor, and a law enforcement officer. And they look at all the aspects through the interviews with the child, interview with the parents, the home visits. What's the prior history? We look at not just mental health, but we also look at discipline. Is this something that has been progressively getting worse? Is it getting better? Do we monitor the child depending on the outcome of that investigation? It's very involved. It's very involved, and I'm glad that we have it because it works. And again, it always goes back to supporting the student. We want the students to succeed, not only with their education, but with the behavior as well. Once we meet as a team, it's done every month. At the end of the investigation, the child gets categorized as low, medium, or high. If they can categorize as low, then we just monitor the student's behavior for 90 days. Medium is going to be 6 months, and then high will be a whole 365, a whole calendar year. What that monitoring looks like, it could be daily book bag checks. It could be daily, hey, how are you doing? How's it going today? But you build a plan to support the child. That gets shared with the parents as well. And we let the parents know that, hey, this is what's going on. I think is the best course of action to support your child. And again, 9 times out of 10, most parents are very welcoming to that support, and working with the school and supporting the child.
It's not just one person that's maybe had a negative interaction here and there with the student. It's a whole team weighing in to make sure that student is fairly represented, because as a parent, you don't want your kid to get a bad rap and then feel unjustly targeted or anything like that. And as a parent, you also want to make sure that other kids are keeping the environment safe for your baby.
Right. That word targeted just kind of gets my blood boiling sometimes, because I don't understand how parents believe that a random administrator. I mean, most schools you're looking at the smaller schools you're looking at about 300 to 400 kids. At the larger schools, 1,600 to 3,000 kids at the high school level. There's not one teacher or administrator or resource officer that wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to get little Johnny today. No, that's not the case. The only reason why the frequency of contact with a particular student happens is because the student brings upon that contact according to their action. I had plenty of encounters in the past where a parent comes to the school extremely mad. Why is my child being suspended again? And da 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 da. And they're very furious about it. And ma'am, first of all, calm down. Okay, let's look at this picture. There's three adults in this room. It's you, me, and the administrator, and your child. And you're mad because your child's getting suspended. So we're having this conversation at this moment in time because of your child's behavior. So I think you're misdirecting your anger, and I think you need to address it. What's going on with your child? And once again, we're not only educating kids, we're educating parents. Some parents come in here furious, and by the time they leave, they're like, Officer Hernandez, thank you. I really appreciate that. And all it takes is having a conversation. No child is targeted in any school that I know of, and no child is judged according to other than their behavior. Every action has a reaction, and every good deed has a reward, and every bad behavior has a consequence. And that's just at the school level. But if you don't teach a child now when they're young that what they say, what they do has consequences, then when they go into adulthood, it's only going to get much worse. Because it's not okay to say, I don't like you, and smack somebody across the face and not expect a consequence. That's not right. If it happens in the adult world, if I happen to be walking down the street, downtown Orlando, and I see a guy I don't like and I smack him across the face, what do you think the result's going to be? I'm going to end up in handcuffs. I'm going to jail because I just committed a crime. So before we get to that point of a child's development, let's address it here at the educational level where it's supposed to be addressed. That's a big. I hate the word targeted because we don't target anybody. 9 times out of 10, if there's a frequency, if we frequently see little Johnny in the office, it's because of little Johnny's actions or inactions for that matter. If we have a student that's always falling asleep in class or not turning in enough work to their teacher, why is that? Is little Johnny not getting enough sleep? Is he not understanding the material? Let's address the issue and let's give the child support.
And any advice for some of the incoming students who haven't navigated your school before? Do you have any words of wisdom for them?
Incoming eighth graders, regardless of what middle school you're coming from, welcome to high school. Okay. In high school, you have expectations like adults have expectations. Okay. You are expected to come to school on time. That's first and foremost. Okay. On time means that if the bell rings at 7:30, I am physically in that classroom at 7:30. Now, how the teacher puts, hey, okay, students, have a seat, this and that, that's completely up to the teacher. That's part of classroom management. But be to school on time. Uh if your school wears a uniform, which at my school they do, have the right uniform on, have your shirt tucked in, and again, the law mandates it. You're going to have a student ID. Okay. It goes on a little lanyard around your neck, has your little picture, says you're a student for the school, and it says what grade you're in. That's all part of the security aspect of the security of the school. Once you've navigated that, come to school on time, wear the right uniform, and have your ID, and be in class on time. The rest is a breeze. The rest is up to you. The rest is going to be getting that work turned in, making sure you're not falling asleep in class, making sure you're staying off that cell phone. I mean and this is again my personal opinion. Cell phones there's no room for cell phones in education at all. Period. Unless there's a teacher out there that can show me otherwise, there's nothing educational about a phone. Um, I'm gonna age myself now, but when I went to school, cell phones didn't exist, you know. And the biggest thing that I get from parents is, "Well, my child needs their cell phone. I gotta be able to get a hold of them." I'm like, I understand that, but there's over 150 phones on this campus. I'm pretty sure one of them will pick up, and we can get a hold of your child for any one reason. Why a parent needs to call a child in the middle of the school day is beyond me. And I can't find. I need to speak with my child, or I need to get my child. Let's talk about that. We can address it. Access to your child is always there. If you're the parent and you show identification at the front office, and I'm David Hernandez and I'm here to see my child, or I need to speak to my child about anything else, most definitely I'll show my identification. We'll get the child out of class. have your conversation, check them out, do what you got to do. Okay. But to call a child in the middle of class and the child's like, hello, mom? Yeah, what? Da-da-da. That's interrupting the class. That's interrupting the teacher. There's nothing valuable of having a cell phone. Again, personal opinion. If it was up to me, it'd be zero cell phones. No cell phones in class during educational time. At the school that I'm at now, they do allow cell phones in the hallways and in lunch and at PE. But in a structured classroom, no. There's you can't. I mean, no. There's nothing of value for a cell phone. So and the social media aspect of it and the access to the internet and God, we all know what the internet offers. The internet is not a teacher. The teacher in the classroom is a teacher, and there is scholastic information that the children needs to get in order to succeed to go on to the next grade, and they're not going to find that in a cell phone. I think that we're going in the right direction. Um, we've been living with the safe school aspect of it. We've been dealing with the challenges of the cell phones and everything else, but we are definitely headed in the right direction. I've gotten a lot of feedback from my parents that they love when their child comes to the school because they feel that the child is safe. This is a customer service business. And if you have that communication with that person and render that good customer service, you're not only making yourself look good, you're making the agency you work for look good. And all it is a conversation. You know, uh, a lot of people communicate many different ways. I pride myself in opening that line of communication with parents and just to have a better outcome. Um, Again, if I didn't love what I do, I wouldn't be here. And I want every child to succeed.
Well, thanks. Lots of great information, good advice, good takes on law enforcement and your role in a school on a campus, keeping our kids safe. I really appreciate everything you do. So, David, thank you for joining us today. So, whether you're a teacher, parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other. We'll see you next time.